Alright, my beautiful ladies and peeps. I know it is Sunday afternoon. We are going to get started on lessons 11 and 12 for 7th grade math. Um, right now, my idea is to combine 11 and 12, but depending on how this progresses, I might separate the two lessons for two separate days. So just bear with me, and we'll figure out how we're going to make this look. Alright, so there we go. For example number 1, it says complete quadrants 1 and 4 of the table below to show sets of matching numbers. So show how sets of matching integer cards will affect the player's score in the integer game. For example, 3 2s will increase the player's score by 6. Okay? So this quadrant represents increasing a player's score. Okay? Because this is a positive and a positive number. Okay. Now, if you notice, they've got the x value here, the x-axis. These are the number of matching cards, whereas the y values are, let me come down a little bit more for you guys here. Okay. The y-axis is the integer card value. Okay. So this is telling us that, like in number 6 right here, okay, that there are 3 2 cards. Okay. There are there are 3 cards in the player's hand with a value of 2. Okay. Now, let's finish filling out the x-axis real quick here, okay? If all these are positive values, then we know that this right here is going to be a 0, okay? So all the values to the left of 0 are going to be negative values. -1, -2, -3, -4, and a -5. Okay? Now, there's a reason why they didn't sit there and put these values in, because we're talking about the number of matching cards, okay? Can you really sit there and have a negative matching cards? Whew. No, you really can't, okay? But for the sake of argument, for right now, we're going to sit there and put in negative values, okay? Now, it only wanted us to look at quadrant 1 and 4, so let's look at quadrant 4 here, okay? So I've got, let's say if I have 4 cards with a value of a -3, okay? 4 cards with a value of -3. So -3, -3, -3, -3. How much would my hand be valued at? Okay, well that just means we got to add -3 plus a -3 plus a -3 plus a -3. Okay, well -3 plus a -3 is going to be a -6 plus -3 plus a -3 is going to be a -6 as well. -6 plus a -6 would be a -12. So in this case here, we would see a decrease in the player's hand. Okay, so quadrant 4 represents a decrease, all right, in a player's score. Okay, now this is because we have a positive value and a negative value in this quadrant. Okay, now I want to sit here and I want to fill out quadrants 2 and 3 because we need to go ahead and get them done now, because we need to understand something. This lesson is all about multiplying sign numbers, okay? So we need to look at the values as if they're positive versus negative, okay? Now, I want you to think about this, okay? In multiplying integers, okay, positive times a positive is always going to be a positive. A positive times a negative will always be a negative, or we'll get a decrease, okay? You know what? Here's what I want you to do. I don't want to continue this just yet. I want to sit there and I want to see what you guys can come up with, all right? Tomorrow in class, I want to know what you believe quadrant 2 represents and what quadrant 3 represents. I want to know what your opinions are of this, okay? and that's where entering the missing integers in the left side of the middle row and describe what they represent is where that's going to come in at. This is your homework, okay? So what patterns do you see in the right half of the table? Okay, well, I see that the number of matching cards are positive no matter what, okay? So when the number of cards is positive, then the values of the hands can increase or decrease. Okay, but one value is positive on this side. In quadrant 3 and 4, one set of values is positive in both quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. That's important. Okay, one set of values is positive. That's a pattern that I noticed. All right, I want you to do the same thing. I want you to fill out quadrants 2 and 3 tonight for homework, and I want you to give me B as well. Okay, all right, continuing here. All right, part B here, okay, this is going to be classwork. So is part C. I want these to be classwork, okay? We're going to discuss these in class because the information is based on what you know from the actual lesson. Okay. Now, multiplication of integers in the real world. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you the simplest and the best way to understand this, okay? So, okay, this is going to be, let's go sine 1, sine 2, and then we're going to say answer, okay? If the sign of the first number is positive and the sign of the second number is positive, then your answer will be positive, okay? If the sign of the first number is negative and the sign of the second number is positive, your answer will be negative. If the sign of the first number is positive and the sign of the second number is negative, then your answer will be negative. If the sign of the first number is negative and the sign of the second number is negative, then your answer will be positive. Okay? So in other words, if they have the same sign, your answer is positive. But if they have different signs, your answer will be negative. Okay? So if they have positives, if they have the same sign, the answer will be negative. If they have different signs, they're going to be negative. Yeah. So let's take a look at the three problems we got right here. So the first thing we need to identify is whether or not we have same signs or different signs. Okay. -3 times a +5. Well, that's a negative and a positive, so my answer is going to be negative. So now what's 3 times 5? Oh, that's 15. There's your answer. -15. Okay. -6 times a -3. We have a negative and a negative. According to this, a negative times a negative is going to be a positive. So what's 6 times 3 going to be? It's going to be 18. Okay. +4 times a -7. A positive times a negative is going to be a negative. So 4 times 7 is going to be 28, and my answer is a -28. Okay. This is a little handy cheat sheet. Okay. Keep that close. All right. So, problem set. Complete the problems below, then answer the questions that follow. Okay. Well, this is easy. I'm going to run through, I'll do these first 4 rows right here. Okay. And then we'll see what we get on the last 2 rows. Then we'll see what you guys get for homework on the last 3 rows. Okay. So 3 times 3 is 9. 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. 0 times 3 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. 0 times 1, 0. 0 times 0, 0. 0 times a negative 1. Okay, now here's a very important bit of information we need to know. 0 is neutral. It cannot ever be positive nor negative. Okay? It is always without a sign. So 0 times a negative 1 will not be negative 0. 0 times a negative 1 would just be 0. 0 times a negative 2 would just be 0. Okay? Now we can go back and we can finish filling out. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 0 is
0. 2 times 0. 0. 1 times 0. 0. Oh no, Mr. Hale. We're back to having positive and negative numbers. Well, I'm glad you sat there and said that.
Remember, positive times negative gives us a negative. So 3 times a negative 1 would be a negative 3. 2 times a negative 1 would give me a negative 2. 1 times a negative 1 would give me a negative 1. 3 times a negative 2 would give me a negative 6. 2 times a negative 2 would give me a negative 4. 1 times a negative 2 would give me a negative 2.
All right. I want you to finish filling out the rest of those, okay? All right. We're going to save 2, 3, and 4 for classwork tomorrow. And then, yeah, we'll leave the challenge alone. Okay? See, short, simple, sweet lesson. All right. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and dive into 12 and we're going to combine them. Because, okay, well, you know what? I think we're going to hold off on 12. Just because I'd rather have a discussion. Um, so, yeah. Now, if you want to begin lesson 12, then I am perfectly okay with that because I was going to let y'all do this as homework anyways. I wanted you to be able to work on this problem and this one down here as homework. Okay. So if y'all want to get started on those, you are perfectly welcome to get started on those. And we will continue doing this again. So that's going to be the end of your homework for tonight. And I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you bright and early tomorrow. Yes, I will. All right.